Right, we have Advice analyst Dr. Sam Amadi joining us for more on this developments. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sam Amadi. Good to see you. Well, a lot of controversy there on the floor of the Senate. Questions being asked, more questions than answers. First, let's establish the legality or otherwise of this move, extending the budget, that should have expired at the end of March to June. Is it, is it legal or not? Both for the president to demand it and for the Senate to approve.
Thank you, Ngozi. Good evening, and thanks for having me. First, we need to start by saying that the budget is a legal instrument. And what that means is that you treat it like a legal instrument. So when you have an appropriation, which is what we call budget, it's for a named period. So it's supposed to expire by March of this year. Now, the president can always ask for supplement, variation, but if you're going to come back to vary or amend the 2023 budget, you have to reinitiate the process of lawmaking again, because it's a law. So it's not just an approval. You have to amend it, extend it in the same manner in which you made the 2023 Appropriation Act, because the Appropriation Act is a law, and the way you amend a law is the way you amend an Appropriation Act. In fact, in a famous Supreme Court case, Attorney General of Western Nigeria, of Bender, against the Attorney General of Federation, the Supreme Court had to nullify a Appropriation Act that, after there was conflict between the two houses, a conflict between two houses, went for reconciliation, and the Senate passed it without recourse back to the joint house, and it went for the president for signing, and he signed. Supreme Court says no. So under the Constitution, there's a strict procedure for enacting Appropriation Act and for amending. So it's not just something for just approval. They have to go back to the same process for rulemaking or for lawmaking. That is to say, the same way the act was done is the same way you can amend, extend any or amend.
Dr. Sam Amadi, for a bit we lost you there, and perhaps we should allow you to complete your train of thoughts and also throw in this, because sometimes when issues like this do happen, many Nigerians will be asking questions as to, it borders on issues of trust, and perhaps that's why it is good that you're here to make clear of what exactly this is about. Let's talk more about the legality, as you were saying. Stretch it for us, if you will.
Was alleged. It looks like maybe it's double entry. So there's an accounting issue here.
Oh, I think
So
we have an audio glitch here. Dr. Sam Amadi is unable to hear the studio, just as the studio can hear him. Well, we're hoping that we'll get that fixed and get back to Dr. Amadi.
Yes, indeed. And so, one of the questions being asked really is, what happens then to the 2024 budget that's supposed to take off from March, when the 2023, projections actually do expire? What happens to that? And just like you said, there's a question of trust. What exactly, will this 2023 budget do to the extent that it has to be extended? Right,
Well, to think that this is for the first time in a long time, the country is passing the budget within the
budget cycle.
Yes, cycle. One wonders what exactly may have happened. Dr. Amadi, you're back, and well, for the later part, many people were unable to hear you, and it would seem as if you were also unable to hear us.
Sure.
Yeah. Now that we're back, let's talk more about for the 2024 budget. We saw it being passed before the New Year. So what may have happened to the extent that we're looking at another 3 months extension?
Well, don't forget that this is an extension of the 2023 budget. And so they had passed in December the 2024 budget. And the idea is that The 23 budget ends in March, and 2024 budget, now you execute the 24 budget. What they have done is to say there are items that will not spend before. Normally, for example, in normal budget cycle, when the budget ends in March, no more execution of the budget. Unused budget items go back to the treasury because it didn't spend the money. So many MDAs are asked to return back the money. They cannot appropriate anymore. They can't spend because that budget has expired. Except what happens oftentimes is that some of the money already MDAs have, they're asked to keep those money to presidential executive order. So it's already budgeted for. The money has been passed to them but not able to execute. So in this instance now, what the president is asking for is to extend the life, meaning that the items, the budget provisions for 2023 that ought to end in March of this year will continue to June. Now, without this request, by March, the budget of 2023 would have expired. The budget of 2024 is what we're going to expect. So what the opposition is asking for is that instead of reauthorizing the 2023 budget, why not take those unused items or those recurrent expenditures not yet that would have been expended and therefore need to still be expended, and present a supplementary budget 2024, because apparently you didn't capture them in the 2024 budget because they were captured in 2023, and somehow they thought probably they were able to execute them before March. Now maybe they realize that they're not going to incur those, they're going to spend them before it expires. The question then is, should you reauthorize or extend, or do you take them as supplementary? So the argument that's cleaner, more decent, is to allow the budget to expire, then bring supplementary to capture items that were the 23 budget that was not expended because it had expired, but were not captured in the 2024 budget. That would have been a neater, that's the argument here. But what the president has requested for could suggest that by the time 24 budget ought to start, there's still an unexpired version of the 2023 budget. So apparently there could be two budgets, like that's the first challenge they're talking about. Secondly, they are saying also that it could be that you are double budgeting, that some of these items, what the senator alleged, are already captured in the 2024 budget. Those are, accrual issues. You can look at them from an accounting perspective. I doubt if there will be double budgeting. But what I think are two issues strong for me here is the procedure. Does this extension go through the same procedure for enacting the Appropriation Act? If it does not, then it's subject to nullification by the court, because clearly the Appropriation Act is a law, and the only way to amend a law is to amend it by another law enacted to amend that law. You don't amend the law by Senate approval, you amend the law through a lawmaking process. Second is that that might then be that you are having two, in the worst case, two Appropriation Act running at the same time. So if this ordinarily, the 2024 Appropriation Act will start immediately after March when this ends. So you could by April and June have two 23 appropriation still alive, 2024 appropriation, commenced by virtue of the Appropriation Act. So these are the two major challenges. But beyond this, it speaks to process. In the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at crisis about the process of budgeting. We'll be looking at the process of budgeting, and we'll see that there's a crisis of structure. How do you have orderly budgeting? So in this case again, you have seen misalignment between government capacity to execute, government capacity to fund the budget and to execute the budget, and now the actual budget. So this is a result of that misalignment, lack of thoroughness, process, and alignment in the budgeting process, manifesting now in a possible illegality or allegation of illegality in this process.
Right. Dr. Sam Amadi, we'll have to say thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.